In your own time then, Georgia, tell me about what's actually happened.
Well, I was coming back from the level watch. I was snoring. And then there's this man standing by his car with his boot open. And then he came up to me and pulled back his hands were like that, and then he pulled back like that, and I saw a knife. And then he goes, "Don't scream, I've got a knife. I won't hurt you on this. I'm happy." And then I start screaming. And then he grabs me, and I'm screaming and going, "Please don't hurt me." He's telling me to shut up, and I'm screaming and struggling. I think he was like holding the knife by me and saying, "You don't scream, I won't hurt you," and threatening.
Thank you for that. Are you okay to continue?
Yeah.
Hello there, I'm part of an investigation team in Hertfordshire who are re-investigating an offence which happened 20 years ago.
And I think she gets dragged sort of over there, into the woods that side.
The statistics for rape are not the greatest, but because the DNA development has improved so much, the chances of us getting convictions are so much better than they ever were.
You've buried it for so long. You've continued on with your life. But yeah, something like that just doesn't really go away.
Using our modern day techniques, we can now reassess these cases. Our success rates increase enormously when obtaining DNA profiles from samples that historically hadn't succeeded.
I'm going to be arresting you, okay, on suspicion of rape. So you have to say it again. If you let me explain, I'll explain it to you.
100% is not my semen.
Well, unfortunately, we can't really argue with DNA, can we?
It's a message to anybody who knows what they've done, that we will get them and we will catch them.
We don't just stop because we can't find a lead. We will carry on. Every contact leaves a trace.
OK, well, this is just to brief everybody on Operation Reactivate, which is the investigation into 2 sexual assaults which occurred in 2002. So the first offence, the 16-year-old victim is walking. She's then grabbed from behind and she's dragged through some bushes into a field, and he starts kissing and fondling her breasts. He pushes her to the ground. He then makes her masturbate him and does ejaculate at that time. So shortly after that offence, we then move on to the second offence. This time, the victim is 17 years old. A man comes from behind her and directs her to a small red car, drives down Pigot's Hill Lane right to the end where you can drive no more, pulls her through the bushes into the field, the same field, if you like, for offence 1, again forces her to masturbate him and ejaculates. We have a breast swab from victim number 1, from saliva, and from tissues. On the second attack, we've got semen and a extremely strong scientific support that both sexual assaults were carried out by the same man. This is an e-fit from victim 1.
The 2 attacks, they were linked via forensics at the time, but no offender was identified. It sounds a little bit unbelievable that we can have someone's DNA but not know who it belongs to. but we know that he's not on the DNA database. And that really frustrates you as a police officer.
So, key roles for the investigation. I'm SAO for it. Joe Goodson is deputy. Kat is OIC.
When you're dealing with a cold case, you get more attached, I think, because this has gone on for so long and our victims have suffered for so long, and it's about getting justice for them. Right. So I just thought, 'cause now we've got the conversions back, because they were on VHS, we can view their victim interviews, one of the victims for Operation Reactivate.
Literally just after he passed me, I felt a hand covering my mouth, and someone grabbed me and saying to be quiet like that, and pushed me. It's like a wooded area, and dragged me through the bushes, and then sat me down, and I just had my hands over my face, just hysterically crying, and sort of like begging him not to rape me. And he's like, shh, be quiet, I'm not going to hurt you, I just want to kiss and touch you. And he said that if I wasn't quiet, that he would rape me. So he started to stick his tongue into my mouth and trying to kiss me. And he then started to touch me and then kiss me and like licking. He was wearing a white, sort of tight, short sleeve top. He took that off, and then he took like his trousers off. And I don't know if he had any underwear underneath, because if he did, he took it all off at once because I didn't see. And I had my eyes shut because I just didn't want to know what was going on.
He is just disgusting, isn't he?
I can't believe that because it's broad daylight, isn't it?
Yeah, the audacity, but fully naked. Fully naked.
Yeah.
It makes you so angry, doesn't it?
I know.
He was like saying how little girls and I shouldn't know what to do. And I don't know, just saying things like that.
What did she say? Little girls
shouldn't know how to do things like this or something like that.
Are you so Megan? Age isn't the question for him, is it, really? It's not like he...
Well, he's calling her a little girl.
Exactly, and we know from looking at her she looks like a little girl.
Well, she doesn't look 17, does she?
Like, I don't know, it felt as if he was blaming me for the things that he was doing to me. As if I'd, like, made him do it to me. He then, like, reached over to get tissues from his trouser pocket, gave them to me and told me to clean myself up. And he said it's easy for him to find out if I tell anyone, because it will be in the newspapers and he'll notice the fact that there's loads of police around. And that he knows where I live, and that if I was to tell the police, then he would come back and he would rape me next time. And so I said, I won't tell the police, I won't tell the police. And then he said, right, what's going to happen now is I'm going to leave, and I want you to leave 5 minutes after me, and I'll be waiting in the car up the road so I know how quickly he left.
Didn't know
so
that
he
bit.
got in the car. Well, he walked off, and I heard his car reverse back, turn around and go off.
You didn't know the bit about where she was going?
No, the threats that he made afterwards.
Yeah, no, I didn't know anything about that, and about knowing if the police would be there. He'd know if the police were around.
Yeah, because he's
local.
Local.
Yeah.
Because that's an incredibly dangerous person, isn't it? Who's capable of doing that, like we've said, in broad daylight with that amount of risk. You don't grow out of offending like that.
No.
So we're off to Harpenden to have a look at the scenes of the offences. You know, if people refer to certain landmarks or something, you can actually know where it is that they're talking about. And to get a feel for what those poor girls must have gone through at the time, really. Yeah, so if we just go under the bridge and see where the car was parked.
Yeah.
if we walk through here, so the first reactivate victim, so she comes walking through, she comes under the bridge, and I think she gets dragged sort of over there into the woods that side. So the second one has obviously been put in the car, drives down here and parks here, I think, where we are. Then takes her across the road and again up into
the wooded area.
This area, this side. So come and have a look at where she goes. You see where that blue is? In there type thing. Dragged up there near the speed sign, I suppose. And taken over there, and you can see where the grass sort of turns colour, because that's the edge of the golf course.
Right. And there aren't a lot of people, are there?
No. I mean, she talks about seeing some golfers, like, in the distance, but not near enough for her to shout and scream. And they would hear her, you know. But yeah, so she comes running out here really upset, really distraught. Jogger stops and helps her, and then takes her to one of the nearby houses where police are called.
Right, we'll go back out this way, I think. Oh, we could go... Oh, no, you can't get out down there.
You know, it's just so remote and out the way. It must have been petrified.
Yeah.
As a detective, I can't accept that we have our full DNA profile from 2 serious offences that we can't detect and we can't find this person. They don't just disappear, and it's very frustrating.
I'm Stephen Paddock. I'm a forensic scientist at Eurofins Forensic Services in Tamworth. Eurofins provides the forensic support for Bedfordshire, Cambridgeshire and Hertfordshire major crime units. So far, we've looked at several hundred unsolved rapes and serious sexual assaults. To be involved in a real-time investigation and push that investigation forward by a decision you've made is a really exciting thing to do. Being able to bring some closure to a victim is all the motivation I need, really. Because we inherit our DNA from our parents, it follows that closely related individuals will share more DNA than unrelated individuals will. So we can take advantage of this. A full DNA profile would comprise 32 DNA components. When we undertake a familial search of the DNA database, we are looking for individuals who share some of those components in common with the unknown person, but not all. So it may give us an indication that this person is a father or a son or a brother, for example, of this unknown individual.
So we're asking the database to look and tell us if there's anybody on the database that could potentially be related to our outstanding DNA profile.
Right, let's have a look at him physically.
He looks more similar, doesn't he?
Yeah. Now, he potentially could be sibling.
We get a long list back of hundreds and thousands of people that the National Crime Agency help us work through and prioritise.
So next up is St Albans.
Okay,
born 1990.
He would have been 7 at the time of the first offences.
Yeah.
Next one then.
You want to pull up the
E-fit.
The E-fit, and we can just have a look. The similarities, physical similarities.
Quite striking, aren't they? Eyebrows, nose.
Yeah.
His face is quite long. In terms of, like, skin tone and ethnicity, he matches.
Hello there, it's Jo Goodson. I'm a police officer from the Hertfordshire Police. It's nothing to worry about. Please don't panic. Have you got a minute to speak?
Sure,
OK. I'm part of an investigation team in Hertfordshire who are re-investigating an offence which happened 20 years ago. We've got a DNA profile of the offender from that time. And our forensic provider has come back to us and said that there is a potential, and it's not just you, I've got a huge list of people to speak to, honestly, that might well be related to our offender. It's a sexual offence. It's like I said to you, it's not. We're not calling you as an offender. We're calling you as potentially related to our offender and potentially not. That's the reason for the call. Yes, yes.
As you can imagine, it's quite a sensitive subject to say, oh, by the way, you know, we're from the police. We think you might be related to a sex offender. It's not an easy conversation to have. And, you know, we've got no power to force people to give us DNA to eliminate them or show whether they're a relative or not of an offender. So we have to revert to negotiation and conversation and just see where that gets us.
I know, and I got that from your initial reaction. So please, please try to put your mind at rest, because that's as clear as I can be about this situation, and I will be in touch in the next few days. Thank you. See ya. Bye-bye. Whoa. His first line was, "This is like something out of a movie."
So this is just material that formed part of the investigation back in the day, or back when the allegation first came to us. I got the details of the allegation that he made to the police, the date, the 10th of February 1983, at 10 o'clock in the evening. The victim was 16 years of age. And it says that the complainant states he was walking along a snow-covered path through the recreation area of Fairlands Lake, Stevenage. He was approached from behind by a male person, an arm placed round his neck, and he was told to drop your trousers, which he did. And that's signed by, it looks like the scenes of crime officer, in fact. That's the information we've got on that, the first sheet. The second one tells us what swabs were taken from the victims. We've got, so samples were taken by Dr. Adams.
OK. Samples were taken in 1983, which wasn't common practice because the DNA database wasn't set up at that time. It could have been that the doctor wanted to confirm the allegation actually occurred, because unfortunately now, and especially back then, male rapes were underreported, massively underreported.
The presence of semen on the internal anal swab is consistent with an act of buggery having been performed on the victim. Just all a bit shocking, isn't it, really, that a stranger has attacked a young boy in a park. Investigating cold cases can be quite difficult. There can be missing evidence, and there is with Operation Carabiner. I mean, we were literally just handed a paper document with the initial report made by the complainant. What was it? 8 lines of disclosure of what had happened to him. No information about who he first told, and that's something that's key in an investigation like that. No clothing seized. Teleprinter message requests. That looks like a fax or something.
Yeah, I suppose it was 1983.
Yeah, there's nothing else. That's literally all we've been given. You're like given this and go and investigate it. The results of the science at that time proved that there was semen on those swabs, but nothing more. That's it. All we have is his word and a hope of finding someone's DNA.
I am in there, if you can see it. I think I was about 18, 19. And that's me with a Nike t-shirt around about the same time. As a young person, I was happy-go-lucky, being with friends, being with 7 brothers, 2 sisters. Yeah, it was lovely growing up. Enjoyed all sports, football especially. I had a great childhood. I had a girlfriend that lived the other side of the town. So where the event happened was my way home from hers. And then when the event happened, that all stopped.
My priority was getting Andy's video interview done. It's called an ABE, stands for Achieving Best Evidence.
So we're here today to talk about something that happened to you in the early 1980s.
It protects the victim from giving their evidence at court. They can still be cross-examined at court, but they don't need to relive what happened. The interviewing officer captures that in their ABE, and that's played to the jury.
I can tell you what I can remember,
Yeah,
but let's say, because it was 37 years ago.
Yeah.
That was the first time he'd ever spoken about what had happened to him properly since 1983. It's awful because it can go two ways, can't it? It can be really positive for him, or it can go the other way. Because his whole world has probably just fallen apart. He's quite happy in the evening, enjoying his TV, and we've knocked on the door. Yeah.
I was actually walking home from Broadwater Crescent, walking through Felons Valley Park. Someone's come past me on a bike with a bike, asked me the time, carried on, and then all of a sudden come back and grabbed me from behind.
Yeah.
He made me, I had a belt on, made me take that off. He started touching me and everything. Then after that, he dropped his trousers, made me get to my knees and forced me to do things, well, I don't really like saying it.
No. You take as much time as you want. You understand, obviously, bringing up this thing can be very painful. Did he attack any other part of your body?
Yeah.
There was. This is your interview, and I know how hard this is. But we are aware, I think you told the police at this time quite a while ago.
I didn't think about it.
Say that again?
I didn't think about it.
What do you mean?
I think that's what I was. I think that's what I've been blocking out. After the event, I actually finished with my girlfriend about 3 days later. I just couldn't come to terms with it, really. And I think that's a problem I've had since with relationships. It's still there because I don't talk about it. I didn't want people to know what had happened.
And how did your family react, Andy?
No one knew. Only my brother and my dad.
So your mum never knew?
It changed the way I felt about going out because I wasn't sure whether it would happen again. At times I was just scared to go out. I felt guilty, I felt ashamed. At the time I didn't know where I could get support from or anything. So I just built everything up in the back of my head and left it there. It was never spoke about. Until I got a phone call from the police, and that was it. Here we go. Sorry.
Dealing with the sexual offence cases, I find the most difficult. They can be the most difficult to prove. You know, they're so brave by even reporting what happened to them. But they've got such a long process to go before it even gets to court. Like, the trauma they have to deal with throughout that process is so hard. But Andy's brilliant.
Sorry.
In Operation Carabiner, no DNA profiles were obtained at the time of the original investigation. But advances in forensics now allow us to reassess these cases, re-examine any material that remains, and hopefully obtain DNA profiles from any semen we do recover. It's challenging in that we're not presented with the full list of exhibits that maybe the original scientists would have had access to. What we're really looking at is the remnants of these exhibits. We've challenged the forensic archive to see what retained material they would have had from this case, and they sent us 5 glass microscope slides. A section of the biological material recovered from the anal swabs is mounted onto the microscope slide. It's then stained with a dye, and then it's sealed with some glue and a fragment of glass which sits on top of the staining, so that then becomes preserved, and that is retained. Well, it's been retained since 1983, so getting on for 40 years. These slides weren't created with the intention of being preserved for future DNA profiling. They were taken in order to confirm whether or not semen was present. It's just by good fortune they've been retained. So I'm just going to review the microscope slides from this case to determine whether semen is in fact present. 1983 predated DNA profiling. The DNA database wasn't introduced until 1995. Now, there are nearly 6 million people held on a national DNA database. It's one of the largest in the world. So I'm looking for a slide that either is labelled with the exhibit number, which is RMA2, or that says anal swab on it, or actually I can see that this slide here has got a number 2. There's 2 microscope slides labelled as number 2, so potentially they made 2 slides. We'll have a look at both of these slides under the higher power microscope to see if any semen is present and if they're suitable for DNA profiling. So the slide's actually quite sparse. So there's not a great deal of material presence on there. I can see some obvious cellular material, presumably from the victim himself. I'm still yet to find any sperm cells. Struggling to find any, if I'm honest. Slide 2. And there's one there. What we can see in this field of view is multiple oval-shaped bodies, which are all sperm heads. You can see this one on the right, which is quite nicely egg-shaped. This middle one is a slightly different shape, and slightly different staining as well. It's a little bit more square-shaped at the top. And then this one at the top of the screen is quite long and thin. So what I suggest is we're going to break open the glass on the microscope slide. We're going to need to digest the glue that's held the slide together, and hopefully we can recover the cells and the semen present on that slide, separate the sperm cells from the other background cellular material, and we'll send both of those fractions separately for DNA profiling. And then hopefully we can obtain an unknown DNA profile from the semen, which we can then search against the national DNA database.
Okay, so if we go and have a look and see if we can find the ABE.
Switch the light on. Thank you.
Oh my good God. Right, we could just take them upstairs into that room now. Would that be easier?
Yeah.
We are just going to go through the boxes that we got out of long-term storage, if you like, for op revision, and hopefully get out the original interview with the victim.
Well, these are victim photographs. They need to stay out as well. It's quite sad, really. Look at her.
Bless her.
Operation Revision is the investigation into a kidnap of a 12-year-old girl in Harpenden in 2004. The circumstances of all 3 of those offences are very similar. The locations of the attacks are opposite side of the road, effectively, and the wording used by the offender was very similar.
Yeah, so that's a victim ABE. Oh, brilliant. Okay.
The only difference between the 2 years of offences is that there is no DNA profile for the 2004 offence. And also, the victim managed to escape and she wasn't subjected to the serious assaults that the other 2 girls were subjected to in 2002.
So as he came towards you, what happened?
I kept on walking. He was looking edgy and I'm not sure where the knife was at that point. But then yeah, I kept on going and then he came up to me really quite close. Then he says, and he pulls out the knife and goes, "Don't scream or I won't hurt you." And then I start screaming. And then he grabs me with his free arm hand and pulls me over to the other side of the room. I'm screaming and struggling, okay? "Please don't hurt me." He's telling me to shut up and everything like that. And then there's this ditch by there. And we take me down the ditch. I think it's like we're on the ditch. I fall. And at the bottom I land on my back.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm fine. It's just, I don't know, the scariest bit of that was like, he was, when he was jogging, he was like holding the knife by me and saying, "You don't scream or I'll hurt you," threatening. And then he's standing on top of me telling me to get up and everything. And then I looked over and saw this woman and I started screaming again. And I got up and ran over to her, going, "Help, help, please help me." And then I turned around again and he was gone.
Thank you for that. Are you okay to continue?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
These are the cards that my form group and teaching group made for me the day after the attack, and which is really cute. Get better, feel better. T. Georgia, I hope you get better soon. But again, like, this is 12-year-olds trying to grapple with something quite horrific happening to somebody, and then the only language they've got, understandably, is illness, you know? Like, I hope you're doing better, if you feel better. We are all missing you. Everything will be all right. Oh. I got the call from my dad to say that the police had reopened the investigation and that they'd been round knocking at the door. And so then the next day I spoke to Joe, the detective, and it was all blown open again. I feel like, I don't know, the person that just kind of wants to run and hide and doesn't want to talk about it and kind of wants this all to go away. I walked that way to school every day. I had to walk past where it happened twice a day. I wasn't able to talk about it, you know, talk about not being able to have the language to talk about your anxieties. I knew no one was really going to be able to say to me any answers. Like, there was no solution to my anxiety. So it meant that I really struggled sleeping. Since learning that my attack is connected to 2 other unbelievably horrific, very serious attacks, I then automatically, naturally compare what happened to me with what happened to them. And I see my case way down here. And so naturally, I just think that I have to do something to contribute to bringing him down.
I'll just take you one sec just to familiarise you.
Yeah, no worries.
So if you want to come
Yeah, good morning.
Here we go then, full reversal.
I'm alright, thank you. I'm going to take a seat.
First this morning, 2 teenagers who were sexually assaulted over 20 years ago have lived all this time not knowing who their attacker was. Can you help police find the man who harmed them?
Well, Operation Reactivate's been on Crime Watch 20 years ago when these offences first happened, and there was a huge response at that time. So I'm just hoping that there'll be a good response this time and that we might just get that tiny bit of information that we need. You know, someone to give us a starter, really, or think and provide a name which is easily ruled in or ruled out, because we have a full DNA profile, so it's very simple. Nobody likes to leave a puzzle unfinished, particularly when there is interaction with the victims. You know, even 20 years on, it's horrific. You know, it's not something that you just forget and get on with your life. It's always there. Oh, the greatest hope would be that someone rings in just with a name that matches our DNA profile. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed. Toes crossed. Legs crossed.
And I'm joined by DI Justine Jenkins from Hertfordshire Police, the senior investigating officer on this case. And these incidents are incredibly disturbing. The victims have lived half their life not knowing who's responsible. DNA has linked both of those cases to the same individual. But you also believe he may be behind a third as well.
Yeah, there's actually a third attack that happens in March 2004, so nearly 2 years later, where a 12-year-old girl was dragged off the street in a similar location.
So what can you tell us about the attacker?
So both victims give very similar descriptions. He's of Mediterranean appearance, mid to late 30s. He's got quite distinctive eyebrows, fairly stocky in the arm area.
Justine, who created this? Was this one of the victims?
Yeah, so this was one of the victims that created this at the time.
So it's Tuesday, the 3rd of May 2022. We are at Fairlands Valley Park in Stevenage, conducting a return to scene visit. Detective Constable 611 Seal, that's myself, present, and Detective Sergeant Robert Muir, also present. So we're just going to conduct the route that you took on the day of the incident, Andy. All right?
I suggested that it might be beneficial if we go back to the scene with Andy to get an understanding of where it happened, because I understood, but to the jury, they may not understand.
So this is the route that you took?
I used to take it every day, every other day.
But we did have our reservations because we thought, well, this could go terribly wrong. He might recall it in a different way. There was lots of risks.
How you doing? You feeling all right?
Yeah, it's just getting close.
All right, okay. That's all right. Okay. Just take your time.
People deal with trauma in all different ways, don't they? But something like this, when you are a child, would have a long-lasting effect forever. Like the relationships, trust in other adults, other people, your confidence.
So,
just very happy.
And this is where the incident took place. All right.
And he got upset, quite rightly so. Like, I understood that. And we took a few minutes or seconds, and he was able to carry on. But you could tell he struggled with that. Yeah.
Which direction did you go afterwards? So back the way we've just come. Yeah.
To build a case, I needed Mandy to tell us what happened, but be the same as what he told the officers back in 1983, and it was, which made him more credible. It just strengthens the case.
case they have been extremely successful, and we obtained 2 separate male DNA profiles, one from the seaman, presumably the suspect, and the second from the victim himself. Once that was established, we loaded the DNA profile obtained from the seaman onto the National DNA Database.
The major DNA profile, which was found on those slides, was submitted for a one-off speculative search on the database, and a single match was obtained to Paul Arthur King. We've got a suspect now. It was 1 billion times more likely if the semen originated from Paul King rather than from another person unrelated to him.
It's
A billion
really strong, isn't
in
it?
1,000 million, so that's really high. So it's clear here that that is his semen, it's his DNA, and he's got to account for why his semen is on that swab of the victim. Paul Arthur King lives in Brighton, so we tasked Sussex Police to arrest him. Previously, he had been arrested for similar offences to what happened to Andy, so it supported Andy's account that Paul Arthur had done this to other people around the same time. I am Detective Constable 611 Claire Seal, and I work for the Major Crime Unit for Hertfordshire Constabulary. I enjoy interviewing suspects. It's very satisfying. I want to catch them out. You were arrested at 8:13 hours this morning, and you were arrested on suspicion of 2 offences: indecent assault on a male aged 16 and the offence buggery. And that is in relation to an offence that took place back in 1983. This incident happened about 10 o'clock at night. Fine. So Fairlands Valley, did you ever go there? When you
Oh,
were
I've been through Fairlands Park before, yes, but during the daytime.
Okay, not at night time.
Not at night time.
Okay. What was your sexual interest back then in 1983?
The same as it is now.
Men, women, what was?
I've been gay since I was at school.
Okay.
So
And how was being a gay man in Stevenage in the 80s?
quite good, actually.
Was it?
Quite good. Especially with, I used to do what they call a lot of cottaging.
Oh, yeah?
Okay, so let's talk about the offence on the 10th of February then. He's suggesting that you've made him undo his belt and drop his trousers, which he's done so, and he's pulled his underwear to his ankles. Did you do that? Did you ask him to do that?
No comment.
He can't recall the specific wording, but it was something along those lines. He explains that he was shocked and he was scared. And whilst you've got a tight grip around him, you've lowered your hands and fondled his penis and testicles. Did you touch his testicles or penis? So he's then saying that the male's ejaculated, he put his penis away and disappeared. Did that happen?
No comment.
We spoke about some of your sexual interests and, cottaging, we spoke about that, etc. So in the park, would that be something you would do? Would you be open about having sex in a park? Like, would you have done that ever?
Not in the park.
Not in the park, okay. Now let's talk about the victim. So I'm going to ask you questions about him now. So his name is Andrew. Do you know anybody by that name? Have you ever met anybody by that name? We give the solicitor some disclosure before the interview starts about the allegation, but we did not reveal to the solicitor what the evidence was connecting him to the investigation, other than he's been forensically linked. There's been a big review of DNA from cold cases, and your semen has been found on an external anal swab that was taken from a medical examination. Tell me about that.
My semen.
Your semen, yes.
That'd be lucky if I can come.
Okay.
Because I can't come.
Well, why is that an issue? Do you know anything about it, or have you been diagnosed with anything?
No, I haven't been diagnosed with anything. It's just one of those things, I thought.
I want you to explain the presence of your semen on this swab that's taken from Andrew.
I can't.
He's alleging these offences have taken place, and your semen has been found on those swabs.
No.
Would you remember something like that happening? Like, if you were to have sex in the park, would you remember an occasion where you had sex in the park?
If I had sex in the park, then probably yes.
If he'd have said, yeah, I met this lad, we had sex, that's why my semen's there. It'd have been a lot more trickier, I think. Because the jury have then got to believe the victim that they didn't give true consent. And he never said that in an interview. He never said he had sex with this guy in the park. He never accounted for his presence of his semen on those swabs. We'll end the interview now at 13:56.
So we're just going to go and brief the team because we've had a really significant breakthrough with regards to Reactivate today. Right, afternoon, everybody. It's just an update with regards to Operation Reactivate. We've had some intelligence yesterday, and as a result, we have declared a suspect by the name of Alec Housden, and we will be going to arrest Mr. Housden tomorrow morning, and his DNA will then be driven to Warrington for a direct comparison against our crime scenes. So as you'll all be aware, the crime scenes for the two offences do match, so we know it's the same offender, and we believe that it could well be Mr. Housden. So that is the plan for tomorrow. I don't know who, Joe, if you just want to go through who you've got.
Yeah, so tomorrow, about 6 o'clock in the morning, myself, Adam and Jin will go with a team of 5 OSG to do the arrests, and we will then take them to whichever Hertfordshire custody is available.
Yeah.
We will take the DNA and obviously get that on the road as soon as we can.
The plan will be that he will remain in custody until such time as we get that DNA result. Hence why we're driving it up tomorrow to hopefully turn that around within our allowed custody time limits. Leanne, I know you've been doing a little bit of work around Mr. Housden. I know there's a few intel reports that have been reported that involve him.
In 2017, he was arrested for an affray. He became quite angry and threatened people with knives.
Okay.
He's also road rage type incidents, quite abusive, spat at one female.
So not a very nice man, by the sounds of it.
We received some intelligence to say that this certain person was potentially the offender in our case. We obviously looked at him quite closely. It's the first time we'd ever heard this name, and everything fitted.
Obviously, it goes without saying that it's all confidential at the moment until we go through that door tomorrow. Thanks ever so much, everyone, and we'll let you know how it goes.
This investigation has been going on for such a long time. I mean, the moment the victim first reported it in 1983 to now. My priority is my victim. I want justice for him. I want him to be believed. I would like the defendant to put his hands up, because throughout this investigation he has denied his involvement. He's denied the presence of his semen on those swabs that we took all those years ago.
Rape cases are one of the hardest things to prove or disprove. Normally, because there's only 2 people there at the time. On the day of court, sometimes you have a suspect who turns up in a nice suit. They might give a completely different version of events and says it was consensual, and it's such a difficult crime to deal with.
The charges against Paul King are buggery, attempt buggery, and indecent assault. Now, the penetration of somebody's mouth with their penis, no matter if you're a man or a woman, is rape. Same with the penetration of an anus with a penis is rape. But it wasn't back then. It was buggery and indecent assault. The judge has to sentence the defendant based on the crime they committed at that time and what it was at that time. Yeah.
A sex offender's been jailed after a review of DNA evidence from almost 40 years ago. A forensic cold case review matched it to 63-year-old Paul King from Brighton. He pleaded guilty and was jailed for 8 years.
Paul King pleaded guilty to the attempt buggery and the indecent assault, but he pleaded not guilty to the act of buggery. The lawyer reviewed the pleas and said, what do you think? Is it worth saying no? Should we go to trial? And we came to an agreement that it was best to accept those pleas, or there would have been a trial. And I didn't want Andy to go through that.
Hello, friend.
Hello, how are you? Okay, well, you don't have to be. I've got some good news.
Yeah.
The defendant received 8 years imprisonment for each offence, but the 8 years, because they were committed at the same time, they run concurrent, so it's 8 years in total. He will serve 2/3 of that before he's released. So we've worked it out to be about 5.5 years.
Right.
Okay, he will have to sign on to the sex offenders register, and he will remain on that register for the rest of his life.
It was just let you know, the sex offenders register comes with a lot of stipulations. It puts a lot of restrictions on his life when he does come out of prison, which means if he does anything within that time, he'll go straight back to prison again.
I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I don't know. I'm still trying to process it.
I know. Well, I just want to say this. The judge was very good. Yeah, he made reference that it's caused you psychological harm, that you were only a child. The fact that you can remember it, the judge acknowledged, you know, you remember these events and it's had an effect on your life, yet the defendant can't recall any of it. And he's been left to live his.
Have you got any questions, Andy, at the moment?
At the moment, I'm just relieved he's been sentenced. At the minute, I'm sorry.
Okay, mate.
I don't know what to do.
Okay. Have you got someone with you?
No, not much.
Okay. Maybe ring your daughter or your brother and just tell them the news. Or I can ring your brother and ask him to ring you, whatever is easiest. Okay, all right, cool.
I'll speak to him and let him know.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Okay, see you later, Andy.
Bye. He needs to be with people, doesn't
Yeah, he does really, doesn't he?
How his life just could have been so different. That makes me feel sad, because he's such a nice man.
I don't know how to explain it because it was so long ago that it happened. Why would I expect something to come of it? I never even thought that they would find anyone. I know I'm never going to get it out of my head completely, but I can control it when it does turn up. I'm in counselling. I've only done a couple of sessions at the minute. I've got a load to go through. And hopefully it will take me forward, and hopefully I say, at the end of it, there is light for me.
The positives are sending out a message to everyone. And this happened in 1983. Like, this man who was responsible for that crime, did he think he got away with it? Probably. But he didn't. You know, it came back to bite him. It will come back to bite you. Like, any crime that you commit, every contact leaves a trace.
We are going to arrest Alec Housden. What we do know about him is that he's an aggressive person, but most people, when you turn up, if they've got any kind of intelligence,
They just surrender.
will just think it's not worth it. Maybe it's been at the back of his mind for all these years, yeah, or he could be sleeping like a baby right now, not worried about anything. We'll see the look on his face when we turn up.
Here it is.
Down here?
Yeah, first one on the right.
Okay.
Morning, police officers. Is it Alec?
It is, yes.
So this is the original case file from Operation Weave. She got into a vehicle that she thought was a taxi. He drove around, eventually parked in an unknown location where he raped her.
You just go into survival mode. And I thought, I'm gonna die.
Teen ginger porno movie. It's all schoolgirl. It's disgusting.
He had his hand around my mouth and he was like behind me.
It'd be possible to stop for a second. I feel a bit sick. It's very graphic and it's upsetting.
We now need to turn this forensic works round as soon as we can.
If it's not his DNA, then we continue with our investigation and we find out whose DNA it is.